Você voa, né?
This takes maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get here, but we can easily find a Jaguar 5 minutes away, and we will still go out that far. So that's where all the boats spend all their time, is in this area for the entire day, and then we come back, so we get back probably around 11 o'clock for lunch. This area is called Three Brothers, and it splits into three rivers. This one on the right is a dead end. It's an oxbow it doesn't flow through here on this one on the right. It's called Rio Negro. The water is darker, but it's very calm. It's great for reflections. We see everything in there. We had great Jaguar at the very end of it last year. We see the otters in there. Lots of caiman in there. So one boat, when we do get here, if we haven't had a call yet for a Jaguar by the time we get up there, one of our boats will probably go that way. This, on the left, is the continuation of what we call the Cuyaba River, the main river. That's another branch that will go out. And then this one in the middle, they do call Three Brothers, this one in the middle. And this one actually here has a couple of ways to get across over to this river. That they'll take these little side channels, which are actually really good. Water's usually calmer. That's where we'll find capybaras with birds walking on their heads and things like that.
Oh, I got him coming up in the bank. Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else he wants to tell you, but that's all.
Yeah, this is the prime area for jaguars, because this area is lower than this one compared to the Ph.D. River one. You can see much more green here. This means forest. And this is lower, so there is less trees and more grass. And more grass means more capybara, because that's the meaning for capybara, grass eater. And the banks are also lower compared to here, so the caimans, they can climb on sandbanks or even on the banks of the river. Opa, tem Jaguar call.
Jaguar call?
because we have a good number of capybaras and caimans on this area, our best chances for jaguars will be on this area. Eventually, we'll have a radio call from someone on Ph.D. River. All the boats, they have a radio. Even the people are going out fishing. So even the people are going out fishing, they know the other guests are looking for jaguars. So if they're fishing here on Ph.D. River and if they see a jaguar, they will let us know, and then we go upstream here. The tall trees also may attract tapirs, because the tapirs, they feed, it's a forest animal, it's not a marsh animal, and they feed on fruits from the forest. So eventually we made a radio call for tapir, and you to say, okay, are you okay with a tapir? Okay.
Yep.
Instead of a jaguar, I take a tapir. Okay. But 5 days usually, you know, we've got a good number of jaguars. Any questions?
Come on, little chicks. amazing the different birds you hear when you're sitting at idle here with no engine on.
Yep. This is the bird that was posturing and like standing up real tall I was asking you about.
Yep. Pheasant, tiger heron.
We were on the river for 5 days, and every day was a new adventure. These parrots are collecting sticks to build a nest. Mark explained that parrots build one large communal nest together instead of individual nests.
There. He's gonna do that again quite soon, so be prepared.
Quando ele tinha lá no cu de nele também.
Deve ser aquela mantueba que fala.
É pra ver que eu tô lá.
É a mangueba, eu fui lá. Chegou agora. Você tava colado lá.
Ah, não é do lado.
Não, tá colado.
Acho que é o céu que fala.
Hunchback Jaguar. You still will be okay to take photos, so think about anytime you wanna a rope, levantar essa foto não atrapalha a foto.
Oh, what was in that car?
Jaguars are up.
Turn around, Richard.
The one that...
Richard Jaguar.
One was like... It was like some kind of a separation.
They looked like they were tending eggs earlier, but if there's babies in there, obviously, yeah, maybe they're not all.
Isn't it so deep?
This kingfisher was beating this fish against the hard surface to soften it and mash it so it could swallow it more easily. Kingfishers have several different colors and subspecies.
With Perz. But that will make a nice video. That was female Amazon.
When jaguars are protected in the Jaguar corridor, the wildlife that lives there is also protected. Capuchin monkeys were having a heyday jumping out of this tree. These two monkeys looked like they were deciding whether or not to jump. We watched 7 monkeys jump one at a time, more than 20 feet from the ground. It was actually pretty hilarious to watch and amazing that they don't get hurt.
And we got flying monkeys. That was excellent.
Those monkeys were great.
One mother monkey had her baby on her back. She jumped out, baby and all, and landed safely. As if it was no big thing, her baby seemed completely unfazed and totally fine.
That's the striated heron. Black crown is against this blue sky, which is beautiful this time of the year. Perfect reflection in the water. Jealousy. I want my picture too.
I thought this reflection was exceptional. It looks like a watercolor painting the way it moves through the water. Parrot's right eye is crossed, but he still seems to see very well. Rayo, or Mick Jaguar, is a very active jaguar, and he doesn't seem to mind being around people. You can see how much ground he covers while hunting just in one morning.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. You see it? Right, left and right.
Outside their family den, this otter free-for-all playtime went on for 13 straight minutes of hilarious antics. The Pantanal became a World Heritage Site in 2000, according to Britannica.com. It is a large stretch of wetland south of the Amazon rainforest. Every year from November to March, it floods and floodwaters cover the entire region. Many of the ranches close during that time. The annual floods are so powerful that they create curves in many of the originally straight bridges on the long, dusty Trans-Pantanera Road that leads to the Pantanal National Park. The ipe tree is the national tree of Brazil. It flowers pink once a year, and it is stunning.
No, this one's still here. Come on, turn this.
I never think it's that nice when you look at it against the mud.
It looks like he's about to try to catch a fish. Hope the other one's in good light. If he grabs a fish right there, it's beautiful.
Oh, this other one has a fish.
Oh, up in front. There we go. Perfect. Come on.
Endangered or rare animals include the jaguar, the giant anteater, the hyacinth macaw, the marsh deer, and the giant river otter. About 600 species of birds live in the Pantanal, according to Britannica.com. The beautiful hyacinth macaw is the world's largest parrot, notes Britannica. Don't we need to split apart so you can get across or do something? I mean, I don't know. He doesn't? Okay.
California named cachalote olistori, then the cachalote, which is a brown job olistori. That's one of the next.
Leave local. Oh, wow. It was fun to watch.
Jaguars in the Pantanal are accustomed to the boats. They see the people in the boat along with the boat as one unit. Because they're not afraid of the boats, jaguars are typically not aggressive. People are not normally a prey species for jaguars. Several generations of jaguars have now grown up around the ecotourism boats. I was impressed with how quiet and respectful the other photographers and tourists were. Sometimes there was low conversation, but sometimes 30 or 40 of us, all in different boats, watched the animals in complete silence for 30 minutes or more, in utter awe and reverence for these majestic and beautiful animals. Caiman look a lot like alligators and are in the same family.
That's too interesting. bird has the largest feet in the world if you talk about body proportion, because he needs to walk on aquatic plants. Like one of the nails can be like 2 inches long.
No. That's pretty good.
Let him trot.
This jaguar's name is Rayo. He's also affectionately called Mick Jaguar. Mick is a great swimmer, and I watched him swim back and forth, thinking about crossing this river, and I worried about whether he would ever make it across the river. But I later saw him cross the river back and forth many times. I was also very moved by the spirit of cooperation and collegiality between all the guides and boat drivers. Many of the guides were from different tour companies, but there was no competition. Whoever saw a jaguar first, including the fishermen, got on the radio and let everyone know, and sometimes 10 or more boats would race to the scene, sometimes just one boat. Boats took turns being closest to the jaguar so that everyone had a chance for a good view. For the time I was there, it was a feeling of belonging to a very special group of people, a really nice community. We watched this black-collared hawk catch several fish.
Yeah.
I think that was a bath before bed.
Hard day chasing fish.
They wore themselves out playing and eating and
You say we
fishing.
leave them be and then we'll go eat.
Ecotourism has become important in protecting jaguars in the Pantanal. During my nature photography tour with Van Oss Photo Safaris, I learned how critical ecotourism is for the survival of jaguars. Jaguars were once hunted, but now they are sought after by tourists to view, admire, and learn about. Van Oss tours are especially geared to maximize photo opportunities, but you don't have to be a pro to go. I chose Van Oss Tours because it's uniquely geared for photographers. Ecotourism helps local communities, creating good jobs for many local people who become guides, birders, boat drivers, and staff for local restaurants and lodges, as well as local tour companies. We traveled in air-conditioned vans, had only 3 photographers to a boat, and we stayed in lovely hotels and lodges like Hotel Pantanal Norte, which had excellent gourmet food. Hotel Pantanal Norte has become the go-to place for ecotourists and wildlife photographers and others who want to enjoy and photograph wildlife. Entrevista Jamil talks about how his father used to hunt jaguars, but now he has transformed his ranch into a center for ecotourism in the Pantanal at Porto Jofre. If you go to portojofre.com, you can hear Entrevista Jamil talk about how his ranch became a center of ecotourism in the Pantanal. Here I am at the hotel. I create videos and write books about peace education. Paulo took this picture of me out on the river with a jaguar on the bank behind. Professional nature photographers like Mark Thomas help us to see the beauty and passion of wildlife that we might otherwise never see. Mark was also one of our Van Oss Photo Safari guides, along with Paulo Bout of Bout Expeditions, who is an ornithologist and a birder. While in Brazil, Paulo introduced us to the Jaguar Identification Project. Paulo is on the board of this nonprofit organization.
Hi, I'm Abby Martin, and I'm the creator of the Jaguar Identification Project. We use citizen science to study individual jaguar behavior in the northern Pantanal region of Porto Jofre, Mato Grosso, Brazil, home to the world's densest population of jaguars. By using citizen science, we are practicing a method of research that is completely uninvasive and sustainable. We provide jaguar field guides that you can use to identify the individual jaguar you're viewing in the river. The whole pattern of a jaguar is like a fingerprint. so you can use the forehead and the left and right side patterns to ID the individual you're watching. Camera trap research. The Jaguar ID project also runs a camera trap project, which is 100% funded by donations. Since 2013, we have 20 different camera traps set up between 2 different locations in the Pantanal. With the camera traps, we are monitoring jaguar density, but also looking at prey species availability. When a camera trap is donated, we share all the interesting photos to the donors. We also share that information with college students from Michigan University. The project also hosts volunteers during the peak season.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm a volunteer with the Jaguar Identification Project. Waiting for our Jaguar friend to show herself, but I'm just here with some guests. Say hi. Hi, guys.
Providing an opportunity for biologists and other nature lovers a chance to work with the project and help local ecologists with different sustainable practices. By you supporting the Jaguar Identification Project, you've added value to the only place in the world where a wild jaguar is worth more than a dead one.
During one of his tours this summer, Mark Thomas photographed a new jaguar that had not been identified by the Jaguar Identification Project previously. Mark named this new jaguar Pollyanna after Pollyanna Pickering, the famous wildlife artist from the UK. In 2017, Pollyanna traveled to Brazil to paint the jaguar. For 15 years, Pollyanna ran a registered hospital for birds of prey from her home. There she cared for injured and orphaned raptors as well as foxes, hedgehogs, squirrels, and other mammals, which are featured in her artwork. The Pollyanna Pickering Foundation, which she created, raises funds for worldwide conservation, animal welfare, and disaster relief. This foundation also created a home for children in Ethiopia. Pollyanna's artwork is known all over the world. In 2012, she was awarded the Artists for Conservation's Simon Combs Conservation Award for conservation through artistic excellence. She has won many awards for her artwork as well as her conservation efforts and her work as a businesswoman. Pollyanna was featured in a BBC documentary about her work before her death in 2018. The world was saddened by her loss. I donated a camera trap to my elementary school where I work, and Abby sent us some of the video from our camera trap. The date on the camera trap didn't get set correctly. However, there were 165 takes from just 19 days. I can't wait to see what she sends us next. We show these little videos on our school morning show.
By you supporting the Jaguar Identification Project, you've added value to the only place in the world where a wild jaguar is worth more than a dead one.
I am amazed at the number of animals and birds that have come through our camera trap in less than a month. But then the Pantanal is one of the most biodiverse regions in the world. The Jaguar Identification Project works with Panthera. Dr. Alan Rabinowitz co-founded the nonprofit organization Panthera with its chairman Thomas Kaplan and his wife Daphna Recanati in 2006. Panthera has programs all over the world to protect big cats like jaguars, lions, tigers, snow leopards, cheetahs, leopards, and cougars. During his lifetime, Dr. Rabinowitz worked to establish the first jaguar sanctuary in the world in Belize, as well as other nature reserves to protect big cats. Jaguars like to travel long distances, which prevents them from interbreeding and becoming extinct. Panthera tracks the paths that jaguars travel using special cameras that take photos or video when animals walk by it. This has aided Panthera in discovering where to create preserved lands to create a corridor so that jaguars can travel from southern Arizona through Mexico, southward through Central America, and through Colombia all the way to the southern tip of South America. This corridor connects different breeding groups of jaguars, allowing them to intermingle and interbreed to prevent them from becoming extinct. In pondering the plight of the jaguar, it was Dr. Alan Rabinowitz who realized the need for jaguars to have safe spaces to travel up and down the 3 million kilometers that jaguars roam. Panthera purchased ranches in Brazil to help protect the jaguar corridor and is working to create a wild tiger corridor in Asia from the Bhutan to Burma. To stop poachers from killing jaguars and other big cats, the poacher cam was developed. These special cameras can tell the difference between animal and human faces and send photos of poachers directly to law enforcement officials who then arrest poachers. These cameras have helped reduce the number of animals that are killed illegally by poachers. Panthera also trains local farmers on ways to build predator-proof enclosures and other techniques to protect their livestock. Panthera works with local communities to educate them to not overhunt prey species that jaguars eat, so that jaguars are not tempted to prey on livestock. Panthera also created a school for children in Brazil so that children don't have to be separated from their parents in order to get an education. Dr. Rabinowitz was CEO of Panthera before his death in August of 2018. His death was a great loss.
I'm Alan Rabinowitz, and I'm in the Pantanal of Brazil. Behind me here is something that has been an incredible accomplishment for the jaguars. It's the Panthera Pantanal School, which we have set up on this ranch. This school allows people in the area not to be separated from their children, and their children go to school locally. This is a book about me. About when I was your age.
Escreveu esse livro para as crianças como vocês.
I'm a stutterer. If I tried to push the words out, my head and my body shake. I can't talk. My teachers think something's wrong with me. But I know I can do one thing without stuttering. I can talk to animals. I don't think they understand my words, but I know they can feel. They can feel what I'm saying. People don't understand the animals because they don't talk, so they hurt the animals. I say, if I grow up and I can talk and I have a voice, I will try to be the voice for the animals. The only way to save wildlife in this world and to save vast landscapes of biodiversity is to make sure that the local people are a part of that model for saving wildlife. It's not commonly thought about that researchers or jaguar biologists would build a school, bring a teacher in, try to educate children. We use this tool of community outreach throughout the whole Jaguar corridor in different ways. Sometimes it's schools, sometimes it's books or equipment, sometimes it's a generator, so sometimes it's giving scholarships for the children to go to higher education. All of that involving local people so that they know that the wildlife has a benefit to them.
This jaguar's name is Jaju. She looks like she's growling, but she is actually yawning. She is the sister of Medrosa, pictured here. Maybe you would like to try to identify the names and family trees of some of the other jaguars in this movie. You can go to the Jaguar Identification Project's website, jaguaridentificationproject.com, and purchase their Jaguar Identification Guide for $5. In there you will find pictures of jaguars and their family trees. Who's mated with who, their moms, their dads, their brothers, and sisters. You can find the Facebook page for this movie, the Jaguar Wildlife Corridor, and look to see photos of many of the jaguars in the movie and see if you can identify who they are using the Jaguar Identification Project's Jaguar Guide. The full Jaguar Guide is $10. The Jaguar Identification Project also has a Facebook page and an Instagram page where they post videos and photographs of jaguars. International Jaguar Day was proclaimed November 29, 2018. In March 2018, representatives from 14 countries met in New York at the United Nations for the Jaguar 2030 Forum and created this day to celebrate and protect jaguars. Their goal is to expand the Jaguar corridor by creating 30 new conservation areas for jaguars by 2030. Dr. Ellen Rabinowitz was one of the many voices that joined in the call for this Jaguar Day. World Jaguar Day was celebrated June 11, 2019. These two events reveal an increasing international concern for the welfare of jaguars. Hunting or killing jaguars is currently illegal in Brazil. However, the UK Independent reported in August of 2019 that Brazil was considering making jaguar hunting legal. Panthera reports that jaguars are currently listed as near threatened. Allowing hunting could further reduce their numbers and put them in an even more precarious position. Jaguars used to be alive and existing in the United States. However, there hasn't been a breeding population of jaguars for 50 years. An occasional jaguar is spotted in Arizona, but it's rare. Jaguars have been eradicated in a large percentage of their territory that they used to roam. There is also concern that allowing hunting in Brazil could also hinder and harm or kill other species. The UK Independent reports that the bill being considered in Brazil would allow hunters to shoot endangered jaguars, parrots, and monkeys in rainforests. The UK Independent reports that the bill would legalize hunting, breeding, and selling animals. It notes that 1,100 species in Brazil or more in the Amazon rainforests, which are currently burning due to deforestation, are already threatened with extinction from deforestation, human expansion, and poaching. Brazilian environmentalists are sharply opposed to the bill, the Independent reports. The Brazilian nonprofit Rainforest Rescue states concern that this bill could increase the sale of Brazilian arms, the Brazilian arms industry, and arms exporters like those in the United States. Jaguars typically prey on capybaras, caiman, and birds for their food. Jaguars don't typically seek out human beings to attack and be aggressive unless they have been shot at or otherwise antagonized by human beings. Hunting is likely to antagonize jaguars, making them afraid and more likely to attack humans that they otherwise might ignore, which could affect the safety of local Brazilian communities. It could also make ecotourism less safe for tourists and greatly harm the tourist industry, which would also lower the economic status of many communities that now depend on ecotourism for their livelihood. Along with Brazilian environmentalists, the Brazilian Humane Society and the International Humane Society also strongly oppose this bill. You may sign a petition on the Humane Society website opposing this bill and expressing your concern. You can find the International Humane Society's petition to protect jaguars in Brazil on our movie Facebook page, the Jaguar Wildlife Corridor, and on the Jaguar Identification Project's Instagram page, which is where I first saw it. Costa Rica, Mexico, and Peru have expressed concern about an increase in jaguar trafficking and have asked for a study on the illegal trade in jaguars, notes Humane Society International. The study would be conducted under the international treaty, which is called the United Nations Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. In June 2019, the United Nations report stated that worldwide species are becoming extinct at a never-seen-before rate. This extinction crisis is due in part to exploitation and commercial sales of animals and animal parts, the report said. Numerous experts have also cited climate change as a major factor in the extinction crisis. There has been concern that Brazil has been weakening environmental restrictions on deforestation, which many believe has increased the level of out-of-control fires occurring in 2019. As of October 1st, 2019, as many as 500 jaguars may have been killed or displaced by the Amazon fires in Brazil and Bolivia, not counting the fires burning in Peru and Paraguay, according to Panthera, and reported by Jason Biddle of the National Resources Defense Council. The southern tip of the Amazon is about 500 miles north of the Pantanal, where I was. 7,000 miles of the Amazon burned, largely by farmers and cattle ranchers, notes Battelle. Animals can get trapped in rings of fire or die from smoke inhalation or dehydration, notes Esteban Payan, a Panthera regional director in South America, quoted by Battelle. Even marsh deer that can outrun a jaguar have been killed by the fire, Payan said, noting that fires can spread very quickly and can actually leap across rivers. Jaguar cubs and their mothers are most severely at risk because jaguars can only move one cub at a time by holding them in their mouths, adds Payan, so only one cub in a litter may survive. At the very least, the habitat of these 500 jaguars is gone, notes Payan. From January to August 2019, more than 9,000 fires were burning on 274 territories where indigenous nations live. Twice as many as 2018, according to Brazil's National Space Research Institute, INPE. And 31 new fires started in the first 10 days of September, notes Christian Poirier of AmazonWatch.org. Chief Hector of the Savante Nation stated that for them the land is like their church. It is sacred. He was quoted by James Pasley, Paul Ronsheimer, and Georgios Moutafis, writing in Business Insider. In the Tocantins state, indigenous leaders of the Crajo Canela Nation said that 95% of their land was destroyed by fire. In an interview with Brazil's Indigenous Missionary Council, writes Poirier, Wagner Kraho Canela said that despite fighting 13 miles of fire with assistance from other indigenous nations, the fire was 2 miles from their village. Many complaints of invasions on indigenous lands have been received, said Helena Palmquist, who handles indigenous affairs for the Amazonian state of Para. She was interviewed by Shannon Sims for TheAtlantic.com in August 2019. Enforcement of the Brazilian Constitution's protections for the environment and for indigenous nations has been stopped, and the federal police don't seem to be responding to indigenous complaints, Palmquist added. Indigenous peoples are having to patrol their own territories and confront illegal loggers and miners who have often been very violent, notes Miller, who is the advocacy director for AmazonWatch.org, speaking in an October 2019 interview with Sophie Hurst of Green Matters. 8 cat species live in the Amazon: the jaguar, puma, ocelots, Jeffrey's cats, pampas cats, margays, oncillas, and jaguarundis, not to mention other animals, Payan told Battelle. There's also the concern that undiscovered species may be lost in the fires, notes Nigel Sizer, who is Rainforest Rescue's chief of programs, also quoted by Battelle. The Amazon's biodiversity is so massive that 1 out of 10 species live in the Amazon, notes Battelle. According to Matt Simon, writing in Wired, 20% of Amazon's rainforest has been deforested, which is about twice the area of California, since the 1970s. And he notes that this deforestation occurs in patchworks, so it doesn't leave as large swatches of the rainforest intact, but rather sometimes creates islands of rainforest where animals become trapped. When island areas of rainforest are created like this, it's especially difficult for jaguars who need large areas of land like the Jaguar corridor to roam. Eric Ortiz, writing in the NBC News World, notes that the Amazon creates an atmospheric river that carries water vapor not only through the South American continent, but also contributes to rainfall patterns around the globe, including the U.S. Midwest. This affects climate change and threatens food production and destabilizes ecosystems, according to experts, he notes. He quotes Meg Simonton of the World Wildlife Fund. She is senior director for the Amazon in the United States. She states that Amazon is a weather engine. Not only does deforestation affect climate change, but it also affects indigenous populations living in the Amazon and potentially in other areas of Brazil. A number of these indigenous nations have never been contacted by the outside world, according to Wikipedia. The Amazon forest is crucial to their way of life and their survival. More than 400 indigenous nations, adding up to about 1 million people, live in the Amazon, according to survivalinternational.org. A number of indigenous nations also live in the Pantanal. Indigenous land management practices are the most effective in sustaining the health of tropical rainforests around the world, according to research studies, note Zoe Schlanger and Daniel Wolf, writing in Quartz. Satellite imagery shows that from 1985 to 2018, deforestation crept up to and stopped literally at the edge of the Zingo Indigenous Park in Brazil. Throughout history, when governments and corporations have trampled their rights and native indigenous peoples were displaced and their land was taken, environmental degradation and destruction followed, writes Sam Ordonos in Workers' World. Deb Howland and Joenia Wapichana of the Washington Post also note that protecting indigenous lands protects the environment. Scott Wallace of National Geographic interviewed Beto Marubo, a native leader from Jaguar Valley indigenous land in western Brazil, who expressed grave concern about decreasing rainforest protections, indigenous rights, safety for indigenous people, and criminal gangs that traffic in timber and exotic species stolen from indigenous land. Scientists have documented that the lands where indigenous people live have the most intact protected forests, Marubo said. That's because, for us, the land is life. Without the land, there is no life, he said. In August 2019, the fires were so widespread that the smoke clouds from hundreds of miles away turned Sao Paulo, the largest city in Brazil, from day into night, writes Sergio Pacanja of the Washington Post. The summer and fall of 2019 ignited worldwide concern regarding the 74,000 fires burning in the Amazon, which is almost twice as many as were reported in 2018, according to Brazil's National Institute for Space Research, notes Eric Ortiz of NBCnews.com. Concerned citizens around the world donated $500,000 to help save the Amazon in August 2019, and Earth Alliance, backed by Leonardo DiCaprio, pledged to donate $5 million for crucial resources for indigenous communities and others working to protect the Amazon from fires, notes Chloe Taylor on CNBC.com. Brazil and the U.S. plan to develop the Amazon for profit. Over the next 11 years, the U.S. has pledged $100 million to Brazil to invest in for-profit development of the Amazon. However, businesses like oil and gas drilling, mining, large-scale agriculture, and cattle ranching all require clearing forests, notes Sizer of Rainforest Alliance. Although it's reportedly about biodiversity conservation, Poirier expressed concern that this investment fund is really about cutting down forests for profit. Poirier has coordinated Brazil's Amazon program since 2009. Andrew Miller, who is the advocacy director for Amazon Watch, said people in the U.S. can help by writing their congresspeople and saying that they don't support these investments. Poirier was interviewed by Dimitri Lascaris in therealnewsnetwork.com in September 2019. They also discussed a Human Rights Watch report about the logging industry, noting that a lot of deforestation is driven by criminal gangs who attack government officials, environmentalists, and indigenous people who get in their way. 28 people were killed in the last 4 years in incidents related to deforestation in the Amazon. 90% of timber from Brazil should be considered illegal, according to Brazil's federal police, adds Poirier. Although poverty is a factor in deforestation, the people clearing forest are often working in slave-like conditions for predatory industries, and this is not the kind of dignified and humane work that people need to feed their families and develop their communities, Poirier said. Most of the Amazon lies within Brazil. 40% of the world's tropical rainforests are in the Amazon, which also holds 10 to 15% of the Earth's biodiversity, write Nova Zaventina and Santaram in The Economist. Threats to the Amazon include cattle ranching, mining, agribusinesses, which are large corporate farming operations, and logging. So what can we do to help? James Pasley, writing in BusinessInsider.org, suggests some options. Number 1, he suggests reducing, reusing, and recycling paper and wood, reducing beef, leather, and palm oil. In the late 1980s, the nonprofit Rainforest Action Network campaigned for Burger King to stop importing beef from tropical rainforest areas, and as a result, Burger King canceled $35 million worth of beef contracts in Costa Rica, according to the Global Nonviolent Action Database. In 2009, 4 of the world's largest cattle producing and trading corporations agreed to stop purchasing beef and leather from deforested areas of the Amazon rainforest. They also banned purchasing of cattle from ranches that use slave labor or illegally occupied preserved areas of indigenous lands, notes Manga Bay. 80% of deforested land is cattle ranched. These changes came because of a Greenpeace report. The World Bank and other development banks started withdrawing loans to corporations who were in violation, and a Brazilian federal prosecutor sued the cattle industry for environmental damages. Over the past 10 years, Brazil's largest meatpacking corporations failed to abide by the agreement they signed with Greenpeace in 2009 not to buy cattle from ranchers raising cattle on newly deforested land, according to New York Times reporters Clifford Krauss, David Yaffe-Bellani, and Mariana Simoes, reporting in October 2019. The 3 largest corporations, JBS, Minerva, and Marfrig, who handle about half of the meat raised in the Amazon, monitor the middlemen cattle suppliers, but failed to put into place a system to monitor their entire cattle supply chain, which they had agreed to do by 2011. Cattle laundering occurs when cattle that are born or raised on recently deforested land are sold to fattening ranches or other middlemen with older ranches, which makes it harder for meatpacking corporations to track where the cattle actually came from. For example, all 3 corporations had purchased cattle that had come through one or more of the 71 illegal cattle ranches in the once pristine Serra do Cachimbo Biological Reserve, which was declared a non-commercial wilderness by the Brazilian government 15 years ago. Once roamed by jaguars and giant river otters, the jungle has been replaced in many areas by cattle grazing land. At least 15% of the indirect cattle suppliers to these 3 corporations have continued to deforest land since 2009, according to research by the University of Wisconsin. Greenpeace pulled out of its agreement with these corporations in 2017 because the corporations failed to live up to their agreement to track their entire cattle supply chain. University of Wisconsin researchers developed a computerized tracking tool called VisiPec in collaboration with the National Wildlife Federation, which they offered free, but the corporations were still not using it as of October 2019. The other part of the problem in tracking the cattle supply chain is the inconsistent quality of government inspections and lack of adequate access to government data from the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture. The government limited the data it makes public even more in April of 2019 because of privacy issues, note the New York Times writers. In November of 2019, in northern Brazil, over 2,000 miles north of where I was in the Pantanal, illegal loggers shot 2 indigenous land defenders in the Araraboa Indigenous Reserve, where the Guajarara tribe and the secluded Awagawa tribe live in the Brazilian state of Maranhão, writes Sam Cowie in The Guardian. Paulo Paulino Guajarara died, and another tribe member was hospitalized after being shot. Few are ever convicted in killings related to deforestation, which has created a culture of impunity. Only 5 cases went to court out of 157 killings in Maranhão State from 1985 to 2017, Cowie writes. Since January 2019, attacks and invasions of indigenous lands and people have risen sharply, alongside Brazilian's government cutbacks to its environmental and indigenous protection agencies. The cutbacks and interference with government agencies' work has left tribes to defend themselves, according to multiple news and nonprofit reports. In the past, Brazil reduced deforestation by using satellites to track it, and then created government incentives and consequences as well as education policies to help farmers better manage pastures and fields, so that farmers no longer felt that the rainforest was an obstacle to progress and economic security. Pasley also suggests writing congresspeople and the U.S. State Department about concerns for the rainforests. He writes that there are 6 nonprofits working to help the Amazon rainforest with well-documented track records. These are the Amazon Conservation Association, the Amazon Conservation Team, Amazon Watch, Rainforest Foundation U.S., Rainforest Trust, and Rainforest Action Network. Fourth, Pasley suggests that we continue to educate ourselves and others about protecting and caring for our Earth home. People in Brazil have a 12% unemployment rate, which leaves 28.4 million people without a job or underemployed, notes Sergio Pacanha in the Washington Post. He suggests that Brazil may consider asking developed countries to pay more than the $20 million offered by the G7, which is less than was allotted to rebuild the Notre Dame Cathedral. He suggests that this may be one way to help revitalize Brazil's economy while preserving its environmental integrity. Ecotourism is also a growing area of economic vitality for Brazil. Ecosystem services from Jaguar habitats in Brazil generate more than $4 billion per year, notes Panthera. Henry Olson of the Washington Post suggests that developed countries consider investments in renewable technologies like solar batteries to help lower greenhouse gases at home and in developing countries to use sustainable ways to raise global living standards. Solar and wind can bring electricity to homes in ways that are environmentally sound and create energy independence in remote areas. The jaguar is an umbrella species. Protecting the jaguar means protecting an enormous number of other species who live in the Amazon rainforest, the Pantanal, and all throughout the entire jaguar corridor, which encompasses 18 countries from Mexico to Argentina at the tip of South America. During the early 1900s, jaguars used to live as far north as the Grand Canyon and as far west as California. Fossils of jaguars from the Ice Age have been discovered in Missouri, according to worldatlas.com. As human beings, we are one of the many species living under the jaguar's umbrella. Because the jaguar's territory includes the Amazon rainforest, which has been called the lungs of our planet because of the tremendous amount of carbon dioxide it absorbs. Trees absorb carbon dioxide from the air and give back out oxygen. So, protecting the jaguar ultimately means protecting not only the wonder and beauty of nature, but it also means protecting ourselves. On her Jaguar Identification Project Instagram site, Abby quotes Baba Diom, a Senegalese forest and water engineer. He says, "In the end, we can serve only what we love. We will love only what we understand. We understand what we are taught." And I would add, for me, nature is awe-inspiring, and it has a lot to teach us if we watch and listen with open hearts, reverent spirits, and respectfully open minds. The earth, the skies, the animals, the biodiversity, and all of humanity, we are, after all, one earth family.
He likes to swim, doesn't he?
running through the centuries, through the canyons, through the trees, this be dear to me. And the breezes as they blow from across the seas through your window, where they come from, where they go, this be dear to me. Oh, this be dear to me. I believe this is what's worth fighting for. Oh, help us see that there is so much more. I don't know. Oh, the desert vast and wide, silent under endless skies, and then you put your hand in mine, this be dear to me. Oh, when you wake still warm from sleep, half a dream, your soft lips speak, safe and near me you I'll keep, this be dear to me. Oh, this be dear to me. Oh, I believe this is what's worth fighting for. Oh, help us see that there is so much more. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, the autumn rust and gold, winter mornings crisp and cold, then in spring the world unfolds, this be dear to me. Oh, this be dear to me. Oh, the whole world's whispering, the morning rains, the prayer bells ring, the eagle cries, the great whales sing, this be dear to me. Oh, this be dear to me. Oh, I believe this is what's worth fighting for. Oh, help us see that there is so much more. I don't know. I don't know. If I leave this world too soon, far beyond the silver moon, live your life with love and truth, this be dear to me. Look, there's love in all that's true, this be dear to me. Feel the love surrounding you, this be dear to me. All this